Hello and thanks for tuning into the show that goes around the continent to bring you stories near and far. I'm Chamberlain Osoa, Channels Television here in Abuja. I'm joined by Vincent McCory from Voice of America in Washington.
Thanks, I'm Vincent McCory at the Voice of America. Happy to be with you again for another edition of Africa 54. Let's start off with the latest from Nigeria. Chamberlain Osoa in Abuja brings you that story.
President Muhammadu Buhari has commissioned the first phase of the Lagos Blue Rail Line project. The president also witnessed the signing of the commencement of the phase 2 of the project from Mile 2 to Okokomaiko, 2 suburbs of the nation's commercial capital, as well as commissioned the J.K. Randall Center for Yoruba Culture and History, wrapping up his 2-day working visit to Lagos. Our correspondent Dare Dowu reports.
It's the second day of the president's working visit to Lagos, and its project commissioning engagements begin with the newly built John Randall Center for Yoruba Culture and History. Located at the loop of Winikon Roundabout, Lagos Island, the center is remodeled into a recreation and tourism spot, a part of plans by the state government to transform the state into a hub for tourism and recreational activities. The president then moves to Marina, the venue of the second event and one of the Lagos Blue Rail Line stations.
Welcome, His Excellency, the President, Federal Republic of Nigeria.
A Chinese construction corporation, CCECC, executed the rail infrastructure. The country's ambassador to Nigeria in his remarks says the Blue Line is a sustainable project.
Ceremony line of harmony of Nigeria and China. We seek to harmony in coexistence, harmony in integration, harmony in diversity, and harmony in development. So, Mr. Governor, are you happy? Are you satisfied?
For the Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, the rail project has received tremendous assistance from the federal government.
With your government, we have received tremendous support, especially on the Lagos-Badagry Express route, which is the main corridor for this rail project. And Mr. President, it is also on track that we will be commissioning the Red Line before the end of your administration. That, in fact, is even a bigger, better, longer rail corridor, which we're excited with the collaboration of the Nigerian Railway Corporation, where we're sharing the rail corridor.
The president also witnessed the signing of the contract for the construction of the second phase of the Blue Line project. It takes a 10-minute ride from Marina on the elevated train corridor to the nearest station at the National Theatre. The completion of infrastructure for the first phase of the rapid transit system was launched in December 2022. The completed tracks, spanning 13 kilometers from Mile 2 to Marina, covers 5 stations and will run on high electricity voltage. Dare Dowu, Channels Television News.
Joining me now is the Managing Director of Lamata, Abimbola Akinjo. Hello, Mrs. Akinjo.
Morning. Good morning, Chamberlain.
All right, good morning. Now, thank you for joining us on Africa 54.
Thank you very much for having me.
So the high-speed rail currently covers just 13 kilometers and 27 kilometers in the long run. But given the high population in Lagos, what more can the government do now to ease the services?
Okay, just to correct, it's not a high-speed rail, it's a metro. What can government do? I guess it's all embedded within the plans for Lagos in terms of transportation, which exists within the Strategic Transport Master Plan. So the Blue Line Rail that we're referring to here, for which the first phase of it has been implemented, is one out of 6 metros, and within that we have 6 metro lines and 1 monorail. So there's 7 rail lines planned for Lagos, and all of those once implemented, will cater to a lot of transportation for the good people of Lagos. So the vision has to be that what Lagos has in mind, or the government of Lagos has in mind, is this integrated intermodal transportation, where you utilize all of what you have, the resources you have to provide transportation for the people of Lagos. So we're talking the rail as we implement them, the buses, both BRT as well as standard route buses, as well as the first and last mile buses, and then the waterways, the ferry systems that Lagos State is aggressively implementing. So that is a plan to ensure that we move the people of Lagos effectively and efficiently.
Now, the Blue Rail Line depends on electricity to function. What kind of maintenance system needs to be put in place to ensure longevity? And what about safety measures for passengers?
So, like you say, we have electricity. It will be run by the fueling system would be electric. What the state has done is to ensure that we have constant power. So we have the grid, we have its own IPP implemented purely for it, and we have dynamic rotor UPS system to ensure seamless transfer of power when we need to change. So in that sense, we're certain, and we have provided for the ability to have uninterrupted power. Maintenance will be done by the contractors who have built it. We have agreements with them to ensure that maintenance of not just the rail, but also the power system is carried out regularly, as is required everywhere in the world. When we're talking about safety, in terms of safety, okay, in terms of safety for the passengers, especially when we think of the way that we have this rail system powered. We have ensured that the whole alignment is completely fenced off. We have provided pedestrian bridges for passengers. We're continuously putting out advocacy to sensitize our people not to cross the tracks, but to utilize pedestrian bridges. We are putting in safety measures around and along the alignment, as well as within the stations, to ensure the safety of the people. So CCTV, we have the BRD system, which is broken rail detection system, to ensure that if we have anything untoward, like a cut rail, we will be aware of it and the trains will stop before you get there. We will continuously upgrade that, because when it comes to safety, you cannot be stagnant. And in terms of being responsible and ensuring that the people that you are ferrying are safe, you have to continuously look at your safety systems.
The Lagos State government has transformed the J.K. Randall Center, turning it into a hub for tourism and recreational activities. Well, this is commendable, but how much of a capacity could this have in revenue generation for the state?
Well, I guess from a state's perspective, looking at what the state is doing, and what the state is doing is to ensure that every avenue to bring commercial and economic activity to the state is being explored. And Lagos is rich in its culture, in its ability to attract tourists into it. And this J. Randall Center is one of such. When you enter it, you will realize that it has all sorts of cultural or historical information that people would be interested in. So from that perspective, those sorts of things can only be good for the state in terms of revenue generation.
All right, thank you for your time today on the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
We want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54, and check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. After the break, promoting economic possibilities between the U.S. and Africa, the U.S. Treasury Secretary holds talks with Zambia. Welcome back to Africa 54. I'm Vincent McCory in Washington. U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen's visit to Africa focused on promoting economic possibilities that lie between the U.S. and the world's second largest continent. On our first stop, Yellen held talks with Zambia's President Hakainde Hichilema and different stakeholders focused on strengthening relations with a country that has been the focus of Chinese trade and investment for years. However, her visit has attracted mixed feelings. Daniel Tonga brings us this report from Lusaka.
U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen's visit is part of Joe Biden's drive to boost relations with Zambia, where over the years China has been making significant investments, both in different sectors, including infrastructure development. Critics say this has created increased competition for Western nations, including the United States. Some see Yellen's visit as an opportunity for Zambia to make a case and attract foreign investment from U.S. to Zambia.
The United States has made a commitment of $15 billion towards investment in Africa, but each country must be able to make a case to attract investment. So I think the opportunity here in Zambia is firstly for our government to show that Zambia is a good place to invest in, and I think this visit will bring out all the issues and concerns that the United States investors might be concerned about in Zambia. You know, is our money safe? Is our investment safe? Are we able to make money and so forth?
The visit is also being viewed by others as a demonstration that U.S. considers Zambia as an eco-trade partner with huge potential for trade and investment.
Right now with the electric car batteries that the whole world is talking about, and Zambia having, those raw materials, having the corporate here in the country which can contribute to this multi-billion-dollar industry, I think it's important that we are looked at as eco-trade partners. So for me this visit is very, very important. And I hope that she's going to look at the many things that Zambia has to offer.
There are those who argue that Yellen's visit to Zambia has raised more questions than answers. They hold that the visit is meant to push U.S. agenda and fight trade wars between U.S. and China in Zambia.
There is an inevitable shift that is taking place globally. Power is shifting from the West, power is shifting from America economically and otherwise to the East, China being, the country that is leading.
Some expect Yellen's visit to enhance Zambia's relations with the U.S. as well as help restructure the country's current debt. Analysts say despite Zambia arguably a ground zero for geopolitical fights between U.S. and China, the visit by Janet Yellen is crucial in helping address Zambia's heavy debt burden with China. Daniel Tonga, VOA News, Lusaka.
Rachel Kabue, a 51-year-old resident of the Kenyan capital, Nairobi, has come to be known as Catwoman, not just for her love of cats, but because she has provided a sort of sanctuary for stray cats. It all started when she visited India, where she was inspired by yoga teachings. Now, her 4-bedroom home has become shelter to at least 600 cats.
Cats, cats, and more cats. Purring and mewing. Rachel Kabue has them all over the house, with hardly any floor space left for humans. Of course, 95% of the space is dedicated to the cats. And then I live in one corner, says Kabue, who is also a mother of 5, and says her children love cats. She takes in cats from the streets that need shelter and medical care and later puts them up for adoption.
No cats are too many. What would limit us is the space. We are quickly running out of space, but there are still very many cats that need shelter, that are out there in the streets and need shelter, especially the sick ones and the ones that are waiting to have kittens. Those are the most vulnerable, and they really do need space, but we are quickly running out of space.
Despite growing financial costs needed to look after the pets, Kabue is still taking in more cats in need of help and relies on her family to assist with supplies and monetary contributions.
China's new foreign minister, Qin Gang, wrapped up his first tour of Africa this week, during which he visited 5 countries. He stressed that China does not see the continent as the arena for a new power struggle between the West and Beijing. Kate Bartlett reports from Johannesburg.
For more than 3 decades, it's been tradition that the top Chinese diplomat's first foreign trip is to Africa. New Foreign Minister Qin Gang did just that. Beijing, in recent years, has invested heavily in infrastructure projects on the continent through its Belt and Road Initiative. Some analysts say the US is now playing catch-up with China in its dealings with Africa. In December, US President Joe Biden hosted a summit of African leaders in Washington. China does not see itself in competition with the US in Africa, said Qin while visiting Ethiopia. Here's Qin on Chinese state television.
What Africa needs is solidarity and cooperation, not bloc confrontation. No person or country has the right to force African countries or African people to take sides.
While in Ethiopia, Qin inaugurated the new $80 million Africa Center for Disease Control, built as China's gift. The opening of the Africa CDC was a diplomatic win for China, says Paul Nachilia of the Africa Center for Strategic Studies.
Qin Gang's visit sought to send across certain strategic messages. The first being that the relationship between China and Africa is stable, it's multifaceted, and it's well anchored.
Qin had reportedly agreed to forgive an undisclosed amount of Ethiopia's debt and pledged aid for reconstruction in the northern region of Tigray following the end of a 2-year civil war. The chairman of the African Union Commission urged China to support the regional body in its quest for a permanent seat on the UN Security Council.
The African continent, with 1.3 billion inhabitants and 54 member states, has the right to be a member of this international governance and a permanent member of the Security Council.
From Ethiopia, Qin travelled to Benin and Gabon, which analysts say was in keeping with China's goal of expanding the Belt and Road Initiative into Francophone West Africa. He stopped in Angola, a key security partner, and then travelled to Egypt, strategically important to China because of its numerous investments there, including in the new administrative capital being built outside Cairo and the Suez Canal. Qin held meetings not only with Egyptian government officials, but with the Arab League, expressing his desire for an end to the Israel-Palestinian conflict. Analysts say Qin may be a different kind of foreign minister than his predecessors.
When he was ambassador to the US, he was known for, being somewhat strident in some of his statements. Maybe he's come away from the US with his own perspective from engaging in those policy circles. So maybe he has some quite different angles and views on global diplomacy, just based even on that.
As Qin departed Africa, US Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen arrived for a 3-nation visit to the continent, signaling the importance of Africa in geopolitics. Kate Bartlett for VOA News, Johannesburg.
Concern rises over Senegal's Pink Lake. The pink hue of Western Senegal's La Crosse Pink Lake in English was once an attraction for thousands of tourists from all over the world. That was until a new wide channel began to spew brownish-green water into the lake, changing its color and affecting aquatic life.
Pape Siriba and a dozen other salt farmers bag up what may be their last harvest after extreme floods contaminated the lake and turned its famous pink waters green, threatening thousands who depend on it for their livelihoods. Officially known as Retba, the lake's high salinity and rare microbiome long fostered an algae that turned it pinkish in the right season, making it one of the country's most visited attractions and under consideration as a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
This is the first time we have seen so much water coming here. We have witnessed many rainy seasons, but what is happening this year is unprecedented.
Everything changed last September when torrential rains hit the nearby capital, Dakar, and swept floodwaters towards the lake, tearing a wide channel in its bank. The deluge washed away countless carefully tended salt mounds and submerged tourist businesses on the shoreline. The flooding destroyed 7,000 tons of salt worth about 1 billion CFA francs, or $1.7 million, according to the Salt Extractors Association. Bar now fears the changed composition of the lake will make further harvests impossible. The salt farmers are just some of the 3,000 people who lived off the lake. Boatmen and souvenir sellers also fear for the future if the waters remain the current unremarkable hue.
It was the pink color that brought the visitor. The over-salinization of the water also allowed visitors to float on top of the lake, like in the Dead Sea. Currently, we have no customers.
It's peak tourist season in Senegal, but Dieng and others have been waiting in vain beside their pink flat-bottom boats. Hydrologist Shi Kyung says the ongoing influx of sediment-heavy water could permanently change the lake's unusual ecosystem.
The elements which live there and which are responsible for the pink color are linked to this environment, which is extreme. If the environment is diluted, these elements will disappear. Secondly, the salt which is exploited in the pink is linked to the saturation of this lake. If the lake is diluted, the salt will disappear. Even during this rainy season, you see that all the salt dunes have been dissolved. This would amount to death warrant for the lake.
The floodwaters are slowly receding around the souvenir and crafts market at the lake, but vendors are still worried. As they hawk bracelets, fans and trinkets in a line of unfrequented stalls, they are unsure the lake will ever be like it used to.
Major tech companies are appealing to consumers' evolving lifestyles, taste, and personal values with connected devices that touch on nearly every aspect of daily life. From the CES 2023 Consumer Technology Show in Las Vegas, VOA's Tina Treen has the story.
A refrigerator with LCD door panels that change color to match your mood. A robot vacuum cleaner that follows voice commands. At CES 2023, the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas this week, these are among thousands of high-tech offerings that you probably didn't even know you needed.
The star at CES is all about the products.
As connected devices play roles in nearly every part of life, being online while at home, work, or play is now normal. The COVID-19 pandemic only accelerated that trend, and technology firms responded. Any device can be smart, that is, connected to the internet, or they can do double duty. Along with what it says is the world's first wireless OLED TV, Korea-based electronics company LG also showed off an end table that doubles as an air purifier.
We're more focused on healthier living and having a better life-work balance in our lives. And so many of our products and technologies are actually helping to enhance that.
Over at Samsung, dog owners who return to offices post-pandemic can use their smart TV to help pets adjust to their absence.
Using the mics on my Samsung Neo QLED 8K, the service can alert me to barking and put on a show, video, or music to keep him entertained. He loves the nature shows, of course.
These may seem like products for niche audiences, but some also address users who are sometimes overlooked, people with disabilities. The voice command feature of LG's robot vacuum is not just a user convenience, but a necessity for blind and visually impaired users. At Samsung, a TV display setting called Relumino mode offers heightened contrast and color enhancements for low-vision viewers. Some new technologies will indirectly benefit disabled people. Germany-based Holon introduced the Holon Mover, an autonomous shuttle meant to supplement public transportation systems in both urban and rural areas. It has a 280-kilometer range.
If you think of people who are not able to ride a bicycle, and then the autonomous mover comes into the game, and this is the alternative to other transportation systems.
Just another example of how technology geared to a certain type of consumer can end up making the world more accessible for all. Tina Trin, VOA News, Las Vegas.
Well, and that's our show for today. You can find all the continent's top news and world news online at voaafrica.com. Check it out. I'm Vincent McCory in Washington. Channels Television has our last word.
We look forward to bringing you another show next week. Remember, channelstv.com is your source for news and other programming. I'm Chamberlain Osor. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.